First day of the year meal, and these foods are said to bring good health, wealth, and luck.
When NBC St. Louis news anchor Michelle Lee mentioned her family's traditional New Year's Day meal on air,
I ate dumpling soup. That's what a lot of Korean people do.
She didn't think it would prompt a viewer voicemail.
The viewer called and said that she was offended, and if a white anchor would have talked about what white people ate, then they would get fired. So it was just annoying to her that I was very Asian and that I needed to keep my Korean to myself.
She did the opposite.
Why did you decide to post it to social media?
I've had a lot of people dismiss things, but when you hear it for yourself and you hear those words and you hear the confidence in her voice and you go, holy moly.
Her post took on a life of its own, shared more than 54,000 times by celebrities and total strangers, spawning other supportive hashtags like very black and very Jewish. The backstory here, ironic.
I'm an adoptee. I'm a Missourian. I'm the child of white parents. I have a Korean family.
Last year, Lee returned to Missouri to be closer to her mom, who died a few months later.
To not really have her here has been really hard. It almost felt like divine intervention, like my mom had some sort of, signal to say, like, I see you, Michelle, and so do other people.
Lee wasn't prepared for the viral response, turning an ugly moment into a celebration of being very Asian.
I've seen more and more people feel comfortable and feel inspired to speak out about what's happening to them, the discrimination that they're feeling, but also to celebrate being a minority.
Actress Olivia Munn has been drawing attention to the racism and discrimination directed at Asian Americans since the start of the pandemic. Newly released data shows reported anti-Asian hate crimes increased 339% nationwide in 2021, compared to 124% the year before. Stop AAPI Hate recorded more than 10,000 hate incidents.
For such a long time, we've been talking about the hashtag Stop Asian Hate. How does it feel to see a new viral movement taking ownership of very Asian and celebrating being Asian American?
It brings me so much pride and joy. And I see my family and I see my friends, embracing it, allies also embracing it as well.
Joseph Canaria is on the board of Act to Change.
We are a national youth serving organization that works to combat anti-Asian racism and bullying.
Why do you think that this hashtag resonated so much, especially with younger people?
Having something that is so just easily relatable. I've seen so many different tweets, like what being very Asian means to them.
The very Asian hashtag spawned a line of merch and a surprise for Lee. She never imagined she'd be talking about that voicemail on Ellen.
The world saw it and the world stood up to it.
The host handing her a $15,000 check for the newly formed Very Asian Foundation, which is giving proceeds to organizations that educate people and combat racism. As for the viewer who called in,
she apologized and I accepted. But I definitely feel like there is still much more to be said, and we said that we would meet each other when it's COVID safe. In a way, I am really grateful for this moment.
Vicky joins us now. Vicky, Michelle has really had some time to reflect on what's happened. And I wanted to ask you because, a lot of times growing up as the son of immigrants or as an immigrant yourself, you're almost kind of taught to kind of keep your head down and just work through this. But we've seen all these attacks, especially ramp up against the Asian American community during the pandemic. And I feel moments like this with Michelle are sort of turning points, correct?
I think that's a beautiful way of putting it, Tom, and so true. She was so heartened by the response, both by the younger generation of Asian Americans, as well as people outside of this community, the allies, who are saying it's okay. You don't have to be ashamed of being who you are. Embrace your culture. Feel like you can stand up and say, yes, I am very Asian, and I'm quite proud of it. It certainly is a turning point. And for me, it's really refreshing to report on and see people talking about this in a way that they didn't when we were growing up, Tom.
Yeah, and to call it out when it happens, not to be afraid to do that. So what's next for the Very Asian Foundation, and what can people do if they'd like to get involved or donate in any way?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's so new right now. They're just focused on raising more money by selling their merchandise, increasing awareness with stories like this. And also, something Michelle talked about is hoping to be a resource at one point for transracial adoptees like herself, not just Asian Americans, but, when you're adopted into a culture or a family that doesn't look like yours or doesn't have the same background as yours, it can be another level of transitioning and really learning who you are. In the meantime, though, if it's something that you want to learn more about or get involved in, there's the Asian American Foundation, there's Stop AAPI Hate. There are a lot of nonprofits out there that you can educate yourself and have these conversations with your own inner circle. Start with the people that you know, and that is a really great way to learn more.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.